Are you experiencing back pain that you can't get rid of? Getting migraines, vertigo, having trouble sleeping, and/or brain fog? Do you feel like your medical doctor doesn't understand your condition? Blair Chiropractic might be the solution you've been looking for. If you've ever been skeptical about this, the two doctors you're about to listen to were even more skeptical than you were when they looked into chiropractic work. But fear not. Get expert guidance from the blonde and the bald, Doctors Beth Bagley and Frederick Schurger. These two doctors have extensive experience beyond the healthcare realm and bringing unique vision and healing to their patients. What do you have when you get a biological analyst and an engineer together? Find out right here on another episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Welcome your hosts, Doctors Bagley and Schurger.
Welcome, folks, to The Blonde and the Bald. I'm Dr. Frederick Schurger.
And I'm Dr. Beth Bagley.
And we've got a fun show tonight because
we always have a fun show.
We do. We really do. And I believe this one's going to come out beginning of the year. So this should be the first of the year. And everyone's going to be like, it's snowed in, probably, maybe, or just cold.
I wouldn't mind a good snow. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I would like a good snow during the night so that it's all dug out before we even see patients. Because
I like it on a weekend so that I'm not worrying about patients, because I actually worry about my patients, because there's some of them that, they plan, they're, 2 weeks in between appointments or a month into, and this was their time and they've been waiting to come in.
Exactly.
And then they can't.
Yes. And what's funny is I just started a new patient. He owns a wrecker business, so he's driving around. He's got a flatbed truck.
Wrecker, okay, as in like a tow truck, but
tow truck.
Got it.
Well, that's what they call them. They're called wreckers.
100%. But I heard record sells records.
45, they don't. There's 45, 33.
I heard there's that out. Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that. But no, he is. We were joking. He was telling me about some of his cases because he's got to get under cars, get them onto get them onto a flatbed or a traditional wrecker, and tow them to wherever they need to go. Lots of heavy equipment, a lot of moving around heavy cars and whatnot. But he was telling me about how he had one case where his helper, someone in a Walmart parking lot hit a pylon, one of the concrete pylons. I mean, folks, it's a parking lot. Do not drive in excess of about 15 miles per hour. And even then, be aware of people around you, because some people are just cutting across lanes. But anyways, so the car's on its side. And as his helper was trying to bring it back on, or bring it back up, he actually landed it onto the pylon. and the firefighters had to come in and help undo it. It was a nightmare. But his comment was he wishes it would only rain at night, because and then we shouldn't be out driving at night. I mean, it's just a great combination. I mean, reality doesn't work that way, but it sounds good in mind. But any case, where was I going with this? There might have been a point to that.
New patient. Maybe it was a win. I don't know.
Well, I'm coming around to the wind, but just it was the snow comment and not having snow at. We don't like snow during patient hours or during patient days.
I don't want to miss my patients.
I don't either. Especially if I'm over in Arthur every other week, that completely messes up my schedule.
If you miss one, if
I miss one,
that'd be awful.
And even their schedules don't necessarily allow us to shift it 1 week a little bit. Sometimes we can move it to a Friday, but that doesn't always work conveniently.
Not for everyone,
Not for everyone. Sometimes not even with my schedule. So, any case, we know the snow and the weather is coming, but we're not looking forward to it. Not except on the weekends. The testimonial that I do want to share, though, this young lady, doing my math here, she's in her mid 70s or somewhere in there, was referred by another one of my patients because she was in so bad pain when she went to the hospital. She was getting an X-ray or an MRI. I think it was an X-ray though. trying to figure out why she was in such bad pain. And of course, my patient's like, hey, you need to go see Dr. Schurger. So she comes on over here. I work her in as quickly as I can. I do a range of motion before I check all my patients. So I figure out, how well can you tip your head forward and backwards, side to side, not my favorite motion there. And then simple rotation, turning your head left and right. Now, we take, generally people take these for granted. They don't think a whole lot of it. But the big one, I think, more than all the others, especially for driving purposes, is be able to turn your head left and right. And you should be able to put your arms out, not quite straight across, but certainly comfortably across your body, and look down both arms. That's about 80 degrees to either side. This young lady, I'm going to look at her numbers here. She was at 14 degrees, so somewhere like right here, and 29 degrees to the right. So yeah, and there's yikes for two reasons. One, she's driving. And she, there's a lot of people who are in that situation where they can't actually turn to look and see what's going on behind them.
Not at all.
When they're backing out. Two, her pain level was moderate to severe. So, I tell people gauge your pain by either mild, moderate, and severe. And then, sometimes there's a little bit in between those two. All of her pain, mostly on the right, but even when turning to the left, she had pain, was at that moderate to severe level. So this was October 26th when I did the initial evaluation on her. We find, holidays and whatnot, we didn't get to do the reevaluation until today. I like to do about a month out. So she's closer to 6 weeks at this point. Not only did she have better range of motion, so all those motions that she had where her pain was moderate to severe, she is now just tight in those spots, which is great if you can move 14 degrees and you're now at, instead of having, pain, that's driving you crazy, now it's just tight. That's great. But no, she is now almost 60 degrees on both sides.
Fantastic.
Right. And as I was going through and telling her and explaining with both her and another patient that came in shortly after, when we start losing, I'm going to turn for those of you who are watching on YouTube. For those of you who are listening at home, imagine I've just turned and I'm perpendicular to the camera. If you have good posture, your ear should be over the seam of your shirt. In this case, it's my vest. So
which is very attractive if you're not watching. It's just the most attractive vest I've ever seen.
It's I got a better one that's purple.
Oh, great. Wear that next time.
Yeah, well, she doesn't want me to buy it. But anyways, the middle of your ear should be over top of that seam of your shirt. That's ideally where you want. But if you are, I got to emphasize this here, if you are slumped over, and that ear is sitting in front of, well, oftentimes for some people in front of their body, now the amount of rotation you have is limited because all of those joints aren't working.
Yeah. And to add, everyone listening, slump forward for me. So we're going to slump forward. Now try to look up at the ceiling.
Yep.
You got nothing. Now sit super straight up, like more than you would normally. Look how much further you can go up.
Yep.
So when people lose structurally, like that forward head posture, we call it anterior head syndrome.
Yep.
When they have anterior head syndrome, they've lost not only the side to side, but the up. They can usually still go down, but they can't go up anymore because there's actually a physical barrier that's happening, and you can make it happen just by faking bad posture.
But let's add one more thing, because these are things that for some people are like, well, I really don't care if I can go back further. I don't care if I have this range of motion. One more posture test that's real simple that will tell you, oh, I get it. Slump forward, take a deep breath. Man, that's hard. I just can't. How many people are living here trying to breathe all the time and they have horrible sinus?
That's a great one.
And then you just sit up tall and you take a deep breath.
All of a sudden you can fill your lungs up so much more.
Exactly. Because this is that proper full upright posture is designed so that way we can use the full lung capacity. And if you are not getting the full lung capacity, you are not getting up into the top parts of your lung, which they call the deep parts, because it goes down and it sits at the bottom of your sternum and then comes back up. But not to say that that is where cancers always live, but because we take a lot, when we were taking normal x-rays, we would see the top of the lungs, and it was not uncommon to see a spot of cancer in that part of the lung. Now, oftentimes it's all the way throughout, but what is going on at the top that it is not getting a full amount of air into it? Those various pockets, they call them alveoli, aren't being fully utilized. What happens? Things break down. Biochemical processes don't work. So all of these
parts of you that are supposed to move, like joints, or those parts of the lung, are meant to. The actual physical part of them moving is creates more health for them. They're supposed to move. So that's a really good point. Though I also have one more thing to add, because in our class that I teach on Wednesday nights called Half Hour to Health, I talk about protection posture. So if I was to come at you and I was a bear and I was going to try to swipe at you, your posture would go into protection, which is that forward posture. So if you see somebody who's upset and crying, they're not going to be sitting up straight. They're in protection posture.
Right.
So when we're in protection posture, all of those things are true too. You're not going to breathe well. You're not going to move well. And that also usually means you're heading towards a sympathetic dominance, which typically means that you're not sleeping well, you're not digesting food well, and you tend to have anxiety and circular thoughts.
Yes, absolutely.
So all of those things are true.
Yeah, and all of that just becomes a bigger problem because we are not addressing those things outside of most chiropractic offices. Certainly within our offices, those are things that we focus on, trying to say, how do we keep you better and healthier? Which was the next thing that I wanted to talk about. Again, we pre-record these, and last night was the Republican. How do they call it? The Republican
second runner up.
Yeah, the second runner up Republican debate.
Kind of the pointless debate.
It really is. None of those.
It's kind of funny.
It is sort of funny.
But there was some telling things there. I was like, this is. I want to say. Some of these people are vying for cabinet positions in the next administration, and some of them are absolutely just burning stuff down.
Exactly. And they're actually there are some statements that they're making that I'm like, these are intelligent things we need to think about.
I definitely agree.
How do we change society? And the one comment that just stands out, because we've been saying it for years, that Vivek Ramaswamy made was,
say his name again for me. I can never.
Vivek like cake. It's just like cake.
It's just like cake.
Yeah.
Vivek.
Ramaswamy.
Salami.
Yeah.
Say it again.
He has the worst last name to go into politics.
Do it one more time. I'm not kidding. I'm trying to learn it.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Okay. Yeah. Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
I really liked his comment. Go ahead and tell us.
But his comment was that we do not have a healthcare system. We have a sick care system.
100% correct.
And this is something chiropractic has been saying for years and years and years, since health insurance became a common thing. What was it, 1970s, when Nixon sort of brought that in and Medicare came about and all of those things.
It messed a whole bunch of stuff up, I'll tell you that.
It really did. And to the point, it messes up. Everyone's like, oh, well, if I got health insurance, it's going to cover all the things that I need to do. And Vivek's wife is a cancer doctor. So she's doing these surgeries that need to be performed. But he made the comment last night, they are not covered by insurance, because the insurance would rather put you on a drug, keep you. They make no money keeping you or getting you well and giving you a cure. They make all their money keeping you just sick enough that you don't die, but not well enough that you can get off the drugs and potential surgeries that you need down the line.
Yeah. So, and insurance companies are for profit. So that's one of the issues I see, is that I don't think insurance companies should make a profit. I think they should pay their employees. I think their CEO should make a lot of money.
Sure.
That's totally fine. But if they're making profit, then they are not giving out enough benefits and they're charging too much for so both are happening.
And this isn't saying that socialized medicine is a great idea either, because it has different problems that will suck money into different things that don't necessarily actually ever serve. So the system as it is, again, is a broken system because we've been looking at it from the wrong perspective. I honestly do not have a problem with for-profit companies, even a healthcare company.
But listen, United Health Group.
I'm not saying I'm not saying the individual groups work as they're running things right now. I'm saying that there is a problem with the system that is different than what is currently being implemented. And
but I agree 100% with what you're saying. But I'm going to add the reason I think it shouldn't be for profit. Like, again, a non-for-profit could be like a charitable organization. Actually, a lot of hospitals are not for profit.
Sure.
So they don't have shareholders and they're not beholden to shareholders, and the profits don't go to shareholders. The profits go back into the hospital conglomerate. And I'm not saying all hospitals are great either.
Right.
But United Health Group, which is probably one of the bigger ones, United Healthcare, they do all sorts of things. In 2022, they made $20 billion of profit.
Yeah.
And Cigna made 6.7. CVS Health, I didn't know that they had a health insurance company, made 4.2 billion.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that there isn't a problem there. My point being is the metrics with which that they are saying, hey, our clients are, and all the people paying into our system are doing well, are the wrong metrics. They are saying, hey, we didn't pay this many claims. We got them to this. I mean, more generic drugs is probably part of the answer. We still need to have some way that we can, I'm not saying that we need these medications. I'm just saying that they need to be able to do the research. They also need to be able to do research into things that are pro-health, like chiropractic, like stem cell research, that is sort of being stonewalled because the FDA, which has its reasons to do research in a fashion, doesn't understand how these technologies have changed. So there's got to be a better way. And I'm not saying I have an answer. I'm not going to get into that business, but I do know that there are ways to do it. And quite honestly, the current systems are failing, and the current and any of the socialized systems aren't better. Everyone's like, oh, look at Canada. And I'm like, yeah, you got to wait 3 months to get an MRI. I can order an MRI.
I can get one tomorrow.
I could get one. I can walk into a place. I mean, obviously, you and I can order MRIs, but I can even get a patient to be able to walk in tomorrow, and I'll have them get an MRI, and I'll have the report by the afternoon. So we have,
but you'll be paying money for it, right? And even if your insurance, you have insurance that's covered there, you'll probably have a payment that you still have to pay. Where in Canada, you just walk out.
Yeah. So, but here's the question: how much should an MRI cost? Did Jason get any MRIs when he went in the other year? No. I mean, what do you think? What was the last MRI that you heard about as far as the price tag on?
I think it was like 800.
Yeah, 800 is reasonable, quite honestly.
And that's one that like it's a cash pay patient paying for it.
Exactly. Now, I had one gentleman who
and it was not in a hospital setting. It was out at
and these outpatient radiology centers. We've had full upright MRIs taken for around $350 to $500.
Yep.
And we've had my local MRI place that will do my X-rays as well. I think it's $50 per region. So that's two or three films, just for the neck or the low back, and then they have their MRI is about $500. So it is reasonably priced when you understand that, what are they charging your insurance company? I had a gentleman that I knew that had a full workup. I don't know if he had more than just a brain MRI, but I felt like he said it was like $3,000 or $6,000, something.
Yes. So
something
here
ridiculous.
you're not wrong.
Yeah.
So the cost of a neck MRI, it can range between $500, which, okay, because you're getting a radiologist to read and the equipment is, you're paying someone a tech to do it. That seems reasonable. And to $11,000.
Exactly.
And
there's a disconnect there.
Yeah. And so that's why these radiology centers exist, first of all. But in a hospital setting, they in order to make the hospital solvent, they have to charge these prices that are outrageous.
Yep.
And the insurance companies don't pay all of that. They pay a portion of it, and they've reduced their rates and all that stuff. And the patient might pay a portion of it. But in general, they're never going to make $11,000.
Right. And the other part of this is the hospitals are not transparent about their pricing. That law is just getting passed. It's just changing. And oftentimes, if they aren't upfront with you about the how much it's going to cost you as an individual, even with your insurance, then they can actually be sued now, which is why I always, and I know you're the same, we always present, hey, here's the fees. 100%. It's going to cost, the exam of the x-ray normally runs about $400. Bam, done. And that's how we start our conversations. And some people are like, okay, let's go. Let's get down to brass tacks, doc. So it is, there are so many things in so many places, even the nonprofit hospitals. We like to say, oh, those nonprofits, they're the good people. Most nonprofits, and I'm just talking across the board, they have, if for every dollar they are, or for every $100 they are collecting, maybe 10 of it gets to the end goal. Everything else is administrative dollars that are running the show. So we do not have, we can't say, oh, just because they're a nonprofit, they're good people. Just because the nuns run the hospital with these,
and they don't really run the hospital.
Well, they don't now. But yeah, and now you have people. I mean, and there are good people in these systems. I'm not saying they're all
100%. Yeah, some of our best patients are in hospital systems.
Right, but again, we've got.
But they know it's broken too. They know it's broken too.
And there are so many spots along the chain that need to be changed. Just even just saying, all right, we're going to say you have X amount of chiropractic visits a year. That are dedicated just to chiropractic and not to physiotherapy. That would be a huge starting point. Oh, look, if you can get the patient to lose 15 pounds, that is a bonus to the people who are involved. But these are not metrics that people are trying to measure.
No.
And trying to influence. Back to our comment last week about trying to push extra protein. I had a gentleman in today who's like, he and his wife are trying to do stuff, and he's big. His A1C is solid, which is a good bonus for him. But he is overweight, and he was like, yeah, the wife and I are trying to cut back on what we're eating, and I'm like, no, go the other direction. Like I said last week, if you can crush 300 pounds or 300 grams of protein, you're not going to eat anything else, and you're actually going to boost your metabolism as your body says, all right, let's get rid of this body fat. In consequence, it's going to be hard because even I have a hard time, crushing over 200 grams of protein, but it can be done. And how do we help these people understand? Go this direction, not that direction. Anyway.
And you don't have to be hungry. You don't have to be hungry. No. You might crave things like carbs at first, but you won't have to be hungry. Hey, weird question.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of the Keto Rash?
Keto Rash? I have not. What is this?
Well, I get to know about it because I have a keto rash. So I started getting itchy on my back, and there was like little bumps, kind of look like almost like poison ivy, but tiny little bumps.
Yeah.
And at first I thought, bugs, what happened? And it just it started spreading to a little bit on my, I have a couple spots on my arm right now, and it kind of goes but it stays mostly on the torso.
Yeah.
And so I was like, could it have to do with my diet? Like maybe. And so finally I was like, I just looked up Keto Rash and there, boom, all these things came up. So it's a real thing. It's rare, which thanks. I'm glad I get the rare thing.
I mean, someone's got to go through it. I didn't.
And I'm not stopping keto because I'm doing it. It's called prurigo pigmentosa. So
what
PP.
Drives it?
Huh?
What drives it?
They don't really know.
Interesting.
Okay. So that's what it's uncommon dermatosis consisting of network of erythematous pruritic papules evolving into reticulated hyperpigmentation with a specific predilection. There we go. There's the word.
Yeah.
For the trunk, which exactly.
Yeah.
And it's mostly seen in young adults, not so true with me, and mostly women.
But
I'm not a young adult.
Yes, you are.
So it doesn't hurt. It is super itchy. If I'm not thinking about it, it's very itchy. It has not changed. So over time, like over the course of 2 weeks, actually turns into like little, almost looks like liver spots if you look it up. And then it does go away.
The pigmentation that's come back for me is actually that.
Maybe there you go. But it's not dangerous. But my opinion, like I've looked up a lot of it, and I'm wondering if it's yeast die-off, and it's a reaction of yeast die-off.
That would be my initial thought is, what is your body dumping out of your body?
Yes, because you will dump things through your skin, right?
Yeah.
So that's what makes me, even though it says how to get rid of it is one of the ways, is start eating carbs. And I was like, no, I will not do that because I know how much better everything else feels. This is my body processing through something.
Exactly. I mean, people don't look at the skin as a excretion organ, but it is. I mean, we are just dumping stuff all the time. Mostly sweat is what we think of it as. But
there's stuff coming out.
And sometimes you got to let that stuff happen. Not everything feels good when you heal. And we've talked about this in the past as well.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it says I also could go on doxycycling and that helps. And I was like, no, I won't.
You're not doing that either.
I'm not going to do that.
The only thing I would add is, and this sounds really weird until you start playing with it, but because as I've been making different, meat dishes, let's use that as a phrasing, I end up harvesting all of this extra fat and the beef tallow. And beef tallow is it is actually a better straight beef tallow. You don't have to add anything to it. Is a good skin moisturizer.
Okay.
So you could experiment with that. Bacon grease is a good second because it's bacon.
And it smells I like to smell like bacon. That's fabulous.
Sammy will come after you.
The dog will come jumping at me.
Did I tell you the story about how I got pulled through the security line in Las Vegas after the Blair conference?
No.
Yeah, I haven't shared this with you. Oh my goodness, I've shared this with Jean, my wife. It's so funny. So Sunday morning, you're sleeping. You guys stuck around for the rest of the day, but I'm flying back, and I check my one bag, and I've got my normal laptop bag, which is sitting in the back of the office. Otherwise, I'd pull it up. But in that bag, I routinely, I'll come back to this. So I'm walking through security. Security in Las Vegas has an area that you walk through where the dogs walk past you, and I don't know if they're drug sniffing or bomb sniffing, but whatever it is,
bacon sniffing
or bacon sniffing. First thing, I brought some of my tallow balm with me to keep my skin moisturized, as I do, and I'd put some on after taking a shower that morning. So I smell like tallow. I mean, I got some essential oils in there, so it's not just tallow, but I have tallow.
It smells like beef. I mean, like to a dog, it would smell like beef.
They're going to smell the beef. And on top of that, in my bag, I have a plethora of meat stick snacks.
Absolutely.
That I've got with me. In fact, I'll give Fire Creek snacks a shout out, because they're
they can, you know what, if they want to bestow us some products, we would be happy to test them all over.
There's my beef sticks. Those are the originals.
Yeah, if they'd like to, just give us some snacks, we'll eat them. We'll talk about them. But,
no, they're great, and they're great people. We could even reach out to them and say, hey, you want to come on the podcast? They wouldn't mind talking about their wellness model. But in any case, so I get pulled aside, which is actually not too bad, because I got pulled straight to the front of the line, didn't have to wait through everybody else. They had to do an extra search in my bag, my normal pat down and things like that. But so here's the other funny part. So first off, I get right to the front of the line because I got meat sticks in the back of my bag. The second time I meet the officer at the first checkpoint, as I'm supposed to wait before an officer escorts me to the front. Mm-hmm. I'm chatting with this young man, and he's like, hey, I want to get your name right. I want to make sure I say Schurger correctly, because my name's tricky to say. And he said his name was Jamerson, and and immediately my brain's like, oh, that's an easy one to say. I've been saying Jamerson for years, because I'm a bass player, and one of my bass player heroes is a guy by the name of James Jamerson, who was like the Motown legend. All of those old Motown hits, some of the Michael Jackson stuff, certainly. Who else? Stevie Wonder. Like I said, all of those old Motown classics was played by James Jamerson, who turns out to be this guy's nephew or uncle. It turns out to be this guy's uncle.
Nephew.
I had it back.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So, and I tell him that, and he's like, "That's my uncle." And it was just so funny.
That's amazing.
It really is, and it's funny how small the world is, especially since I lived up in the Detroit area as long as I did, and I never really I visited the area of Motown, but I never got to the Motown studio proper. But yeah, it was so funny.
And I'm guessing you got released without stealing your beef tallow and beef sticks.
He did not. Well, the dog might have wanted a beef stick. So.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Probably don't spread bacon grease all over yourself when you're going to the airport.
Yeah. But Sammy might like you extra. Your dog.
Would. She doesn't like me very much anyway. She didn't even get up off the couch to say when I got home from work tonight. So
yeah,
she might be gone. I don't know.
Yeah,
she's pretty old. No, my dog's not dead. So I actually had a one win I wanted to share with you and the listeners. And I think I'm going to call him a young man because he's younger than me, will come on the podcast at some point, but he's so new into care right now. But he came in, he went to a place called the Dizzy and Balance Center, which is a clinic in St. Louis that does all of these really cool, actually, that'd be amazing to have the doctor that runs that on here. It has all of these amazing technologies to help people get better from certain types of dizziness. Mm-hmm. But what this center has realized is that when it's cervicogenic in nature, they have like limited help. But if it's like BPPV or with the eyes, they can help a lot, and they do amazing work. And I've sent patients to them, and they send patients to me, obviously. Mm-hmm. So this young man was told by the doctor, "Hey, you got to get this checked out." And he came in, big misalignment, posterior C2 double misalignment, but really big on one side. And this guy, he was miserable. Not only was he dizzy and felt just awful, but he would feel on his neck. And he said, I can feel this big bump on my neck. And I felt it. And I was like, it's C2 on C3. But on the x-ray, it was both sides misaligned. Mm-hmm. So he's been getting adjusted for a few weeks. And he said, as he was getting down rested today, he goes, and I mentioned, I was like, I'd love to do a video with you sometime when you're, all the way pretty much back to your old self. And he goes, anytime. I can't wait to talk about it. I'll do all the videos. He goes, you've given me my life back. And I go,
nice.
And I was like, I couldn't have done it without you, bud. But
Yeah,
that's why I always tell people, I was like, couldn't have done it without you. You had to show up. He goes, well, I just showed up. And I was like, but that was the battle is people have to show up for us to help them. We can't help them via Zoom or via podcast for all you out there. We can help you a little bit via podcast, but you got to actually go to the doctors.
And this is where, I'm like, oh, wow, people are doing virtual consults and nutritional stuff across the country. And I'm like, there is no virtual adjustment. I'm sorry.
So far, no.
You have to actually come into the office
to
do what we do. It's
but if you're a billionaire and you want me to fly to,
I'm
a certain area, I go on your yacht.
If Elon needs me, no, you got to be careful getting on the yachts. If Elon,
I don't know, I would get on Elon's yacht.
I
wouldn't
worry about Elon.
I wouldn't be his friend. I'd be his friend.
I'd be okay with being Elon's friend, or shoot, any one of those. A lot of those guys, I wouldn't mind being friends.
There's one I've heard. Epstein is probably not a good one. I think he might still be alive. By the way, I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on, and I think they may have faked his death and got him out of prison. I'll take it off in a second, but
that
he
goes
didn't
back
kill
to
himself, no matter what.
But this goes back to my point. There are some yachts you should not get on.
Don't get on that one.
Definitely don't get
you'd have to go back in time, but I don't even know if he had it yet. I'm sure he did.
It was more about the island.
And the plane. Don't get on his plane.
Yeah, don't get on the plane.
Flight logs.
But any case, the other thing we were doing just before we started, you had pulled up ChatGPT to do a search, and I want to go through this list that they came up with, because this list just is one more piece to the puzzle that tells me AI is not about to be taking away and getting rid of your doctor or giving better advice than what your doctors already know how to do. So this isn't necessarily a doctor advice. This is
I asked it podcast ideas for upper circle chiropractors with an audience of patients, like people that would like it. And I was like, that's us. Let's just see. And as I read through it, I was like, done it, which is great for us. So
go through the list just so,
okay.
Because it's sort of ironic that we've hit some of these, and some of these are going to be like, it's saying the wrong thing because it doesn't understand.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So align your health. Oh, cute. Chiropractic reference.
Yeah.
Discuss the benefits of upper cervical chiropractic care featuring patient success stories and expert insights. That's pretty much
done.
Every one.
Yeah. And the reason we have to do this on one level to share the different things, we don't make South African dripping diabetes go away any better than a migraine. We correct the underlying cause, is that neurostructural shift at the base of your skull that is preventing your body from functioning the way it's supposed to.
Absolutely.
And everything else, the body, like you said about your other patient, you couldn't have gotten him better without him.
No, can't do it without you.
Because his body's doing the healing.
100%. And that's, I want to instill that in my patients, is that you are way more powerful than the pharmaceutical companies, the insurance companies, and the medical industrial complex.
Yes.
Want you to think you are. They want to keep you weak and subservient, and they want to keep you to the point where the only way you can get well is with their injections and their drugs and their ideas. And the truth of the matter is your body is thousands of more times more intelligent than any one or many of the doctors and pharmaceutical companies and all that stuff, and me and Dr. Schurger too.
Yep.
So we are here to empower you to take control of your health, and you can do it. We did it.
Yeah.
Keto Rash, all in all.
Yeah.
I'll let you know next week if it's gone away. Good. It's driving me crazy, Doc. It's driving me crazy.
Coconut oil in the meantime. I know you got coconut oil.
I do. I don't know.
Okay. Lather it all over. When we see her hair covered in coconut oil, we will know she is.
I've done that before, just to do a coconut oil mask. I don't like it. I didn't like it. It wasn't great. I thought that's a good idea. No, I don't recommend it.
No.
Okay. Spine talk. Oh, that's so cute. Dive into the science behind upper cervical chiropractic adjustments, educating listeners on the impact of spinal health and nervous system function. Like every time we talk. So, Family Wellness Hub, discuss how upper cervical care benefits families from children to adults, promoting holistic approach to family health.
That might actually be one we haven't really dove into.
Kids, families.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about kids.
Pregnancy. I think we talked about pregnancy a little bit.
But what's curious is I've got several families that have been coming to me for over a decade now, and they definitely they know they're doing better when they're coming in to see us on the regular. And the one family, for the longest time, she was taking her one of her kids has asthma, or maybe two of them, but she would take him to the ER every time there was an asthma flare up. And finally, she said, the kid doesn't have the asthma flare-ups when we've been in to see Dr. Schurger. So she's like, can you get me in? I know it's an off time, but I'm having a flare-up, or the kids are having a flare-up of asthma. And I'm like, sure, get them better. And then it just calms down. So.
Yeah. And again, it's not Dr. Schurger doing that. No. All he did was check the patient, make sure that there was a subluxation present. There was that structural shift happening. He already knew the adjustment to give the adjustment, let them rest, and then hands off, let them heal. We're not going to keep inundating them with chemicals we just let them heal, which is hard for some patients because they might get adjusted and be like, doc, it still hurts right here. And I'm like, yeah, it's only been 15 minutes. Like it's not going to go away that quick. Now, I would love for it to go away that quick. I mean, like if I had the magic wand and I could poof it all away for you, I would do it.
Yeah.
But it's not magic. It's science, and bodies take time to heal.
Yep.
But it is pretty incredible when you see a kid take a deep breath when they haven't been able to do it for a few weeks. It does feel kind of good. I'm going to be honest.
It does.
Okay, I'll give you one more. Pain-free journeys. Share patient testimonials about overcoming pain and improving mobility through upper cervical chiropractic treatments. I think you just did that.
I did that one just now. Are there any nutrition ones on that list?
I think there was. No.
All right. See, they didn't even get to the good nutrition one that we could be talking about. So I'm going to throw out a nutrition idea that I heard recently from Dr. Peter McCullough. Are you familiar with Dr. McCullough?
I love Dr. McCullough. I wish he wasn't so popular, because then we could get him on our little podcast.
I would love to have him on our podcast. I'd love to have him come out to one of our seminars.
Oh my gosh, wouldn't it be incredible if he came to the conference, keynote speaker?
Oh, he would be fantastic. Folks, if you don't know who Dr. Peter McCullough is, you are missing out. He does have his own little podcast that is fantastic. He is the most published practicing physician in the country currently, with over 600 articles that he's published in cardiology, and he's also, I think he's a nephrology fellow.
Is he? I didn't know that.
So apparently he is one of a handful of people who are actually, because the heart and the kidneys have this hormonal interaction that is pretty close to each other. So he's one of the few docs in the country that actually does both well. But for whatever reason, he got roped into the COVID-19 stuff for the longest time at the beginning, trying to figure out what's going on and helping his patient base.
Yeah, like he helped all of his patients get well.
Right. And he was looking for a way to solve the problem. Any case, there's a lot of back and forth. He's regularly on Fox News about stuff, but he came across something recently that is, as soon as he said it, I'm like, yes, because I saw the same thing in my clinic during COVID, but I didn't figure it out until later. I have two supplements that I normally give out, or that I recommend during the cold and flu season. One is called Andrographis from MediHerb. And that one has been my go-to for years. Whenever my sinuses start acting up, within about a couple of days, it will kill and stop. Well, it kicks up my immune system so that it breaks down whatever is attacking. And within about two to 3 days, it's done. If I'm out of adjustment, I'll start taking them go get adjusted, and within about 4 to 8 hours, everything is cleared up and I don't need to take it anymore. Tastes horrible.
Nice.
It works great for everything except for apparently coronaviruses. So it didn't hit it. But all of my patients, some of them don't like that, but they really liked this herbal throat spray, which is primarily clove. And they loved it. And most of those people who were on that and using that on the regular didn't have a problem with COVID. Because apparently there's an antimicrobial bacterial effect from the clove.
Yeah.
You don't need a fancy spray. So this is for everyone who's coming off the holidays and you're like, oh, I'm still, my immune system is sort of taxed from everything I did over the holidays. You can simply take a whole clove, and chew on it. Yeah. There's going to be a numbing effect.
Yeah, right? It does. It numbs, which is actually, if you have a toothache, not a bad idea.
Exactly. But it's also going to help clean up some of the stuff in your mouth as far as any bugs that aren't supposed to be there, and help balance things out.
So chew on a clove.
Chew on a clove.
What about clove cigarettes? Is that okay?
I would say stay away from clove cigarettes. In fact, anything that is a cigarette probably has bigger problems.
So that's not what we're going to do. We're going to do chewing on a clove.
But
I'm going to try it because I have some in my cabinet.
Do you know what's really funny is I know more smokers. You'd think smokers have poor lung capacity. No. They really want to get every last bit of that nicotine into their lungs. So they
get that.
They have a profound. Well, yeah, that is half the problem because they destroy the lungs. But they know how to take a nice deep breath. Sadly,
they also, smokers, do not start smoking because I said this.
Exactly.
They did not get COVID as much as non-smokers. I think the smoking killed off the COVID.
Well, but here's the thing. It's a two-part thing going on, because I don't know how it is in St. Louis. In Illinois, you can't smoke indoors.
No, you can't. There's a few exceptions, like casinos and stuff. But
so you literally have to go outside and smoke outside because you can't stop because you're addicted.
Mm-hmm.
And those people were smoking, were breathing fresh air.
That's true.
So I've looked.
I think it had something to do with how it it was probably killing off.
It is
the airborne.
I'm not saying it's one thing, but I think it.
But don't start smoking because of that. It's not a good idea.
It is
because there's so many other things that
go
wrong.
If you just need to get some fresh air, go outside for a 10 to 15 minute walk, even in these, not today. It's 60 degrees here today.
It was warm today. It's beautiful. Although I was out inside all day.
Yeah,
Question.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on vaping?
I don't like it either. There's two problems with vaping. The one is whatever that liquid that they're suspending it in, apparently that stuff is toxic as all get out. So not even like there might be a flavor that you like with it, and there might be a nicotine. Yeah. No, I think some of them also have some THC or some.
Yeah, they could be depending on what state you're in. Yeah.
Right. But there's some sort of chemical that you've decided that you want out of that. But the chemical that the main chemical that suspends it, that allows it to be vaped, everything that I've read about that suggests that it is nasty stuff and you want to stay away from it. But
yeah, and I think that people will say, "Oh, it's healthier than smoking." I don't know if that's true or not.
No,
I definitely prefer someone vaping. If someone's gonna smoke or vape in my house, I'd say vape because it doesn't stink as bad. Not that I want either of those things.
Yeah.
But I think we're gonna find out 10, 15, 20 years from now that these people have either popcorn lung or some sort of fibrous tissue in their lung. There's going to be an issue.
It's going to go back to those lawsuits obviously we don't see these on TV because most people aren't seeing these commercials running like they used to. But every now and then you will see again a commercial that basically says, if you or a loved one was part of this, that, or the other, here's a class action lawsuit because you had exposure to asbestos or you had exposure to XYZ. In fact,
absolutely. Or you were. What was the base? The base that my husband was on. That base.
I don't know.
there's Camp Lejeune.
Okay. But
the water was bad there, and that was when my husband was there. So
right.
We'll
so
see.
There are a lot of those little things like that where these class action lawsuits come out and they say, hey, if you or a loved one were damaged, I think that's going to come out on the vaping.
Yep.
The stuff that I've been reading in the mainstream press is actually suggesting that all of these liability protections that the jab companies got for the shot are going to go away so severely that people are going to that there's going to be class action lawsuits against that, because the evidence is now mounting that what they did the research on and then what they released to the public were two distinctly different things.
Absolutely.
And they did not do the safety study for the second item that was released to the public. So
have you been following the guy in New Zealand that's now been arrested?
No, I've heard about this, but I haven't.
Quickly in general, he had access to the data, the raw data.
Yeah.
And when he looked at it, we're talking like deaths, not just like sicknesses, but deaths. Yeah. Some of these lots had like 17% of deaths.
Yeah.
And I think one lot, which was really hot, was like 28% or something of deaths.
Yeah.
And he couldn't stay silent about it, and God bless him for that. But now he's been taken into custody because he spoke the truth.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we live in a world that's so censored. And the question is whether or not this will give us. I'm going to let this run normally on YouTube, because we're not actually getting into things. We're just sort of sharing the information.
And we're not monetized either. So
right, but we're sharing the information that we're hearing about. But we're not proposing anything except for the fact that they're probably going to, because everything's, if a lawyer can get involved, they're going to do a class action lawsuit. Let's just put it that way. But I heard someone else basically say that we are going to come out here in about 10 or 15 years, maybe even not that long, and basically be accused of this time frame being such a censorship heavy time that it's going to be equivalent to the MacArthur era. Is that right? McCarthy era sort of witch hunts that were going on. I want to say 50s and 60s. That seems right.
Yeah, that was
basically looking at
where everybody was a commie.
Yeah. So any case, it's scary, and if we can't be. If we can't have discussions about the science and the data and asking questions, does the data line up with what is actually coming out? And why couldn't they get all of these thousands of pages that Pfizer had that they gave to the FDA? Why couldn't they release all of it immediately? Quite honestly, the people who are going through it are probably overwhelmed just trying to get through 25,000 pages a month. But hey, we live in a strange world right now. And again, half the reason we're doing the podcast is just to share the information, because when I got into this, and I know when you got into this, we already saw a lot of this on the wall, where we're like, we don't have health care in this country. We have sick care.
Yep.
And the best ways that you and I both saw independent was getting out of the industries that we were in, that we were told, hey, that's the good, go get your degree, go
work for a big corporation.
Yeah. And they're going to take care of you because they're good people. I'm like, no, they're not.
And, like I didn't make a lot of money doing that. And I would be making, like, if I stayed there, I may be making more money than I make now, but I would not have I would not have passion for what I would do.
You might have sold your soul, sadly.
I would have,
and that makes
don't want to be like that. No, that's not a good place to live.
No,
and
we wouldn't have these people's lives changed like we have them.
No,
I've had several people this week
here.
Yeah, I've had several people who say, Doc, I'm so glad you made the change.
Yeah, and and that. Whether you listeners want to believe it or not, I was led to this because I listened to my innate, which to me is God. speaking to me. Like it was, hey, do this, check that out. Hey, look at that sign. What's that? And it was incredible. And the journey has been incredible. And I've got many years left of the journey to continue to help change lives.
Absolutely.
So where can they find you, Dr. Schurger?
I am at Keystone Chiropractic SPI. No, Keystone Chiro SPI.com in Springfield, Illinois, and on all the socials and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I am on or at precisionchirostl.com. And I've been
Precision Chiropractic.
It's both. You can go both ways.
It is in the show notes. We do have a link tree that normally gets posted. Hopefully that's there. So if you need to find the stuff, it's all there. I will be posting. Oh, that was the other nutritional thing I wanted to post. Another Peter McCullough thing. I will be posting a link off of my Fullscript for those people who are concerned. Hey, did this jab cause problems? Hey, is the spike protein still potentially circulating in me all these months to years later? The answer is probably yes to some degree, especially if you are long COVID or having other problems. There are ways to degrade that protein. I will post that in the on my Fullscript, and it's 3 real simple supplements. You might need to take it for a year before everything gets cleaned up, but that will be there. And that's sometimes, you got to start sometime with these things. So,
okay, well, take care,
folks. You have a great one. We'll come back. We'll be back in another week with another episode of The Blonde and the Bald.
Woohoo.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
That's all for today's episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you enjoyed today's show with Drs. Bagley and Schurger, remember, don't give up and just live with the pain. Come back next week and get more answers and solutions. Visit our websites at KeystoneChiroSPI.com and PrecisionChiropracticSTL.com for more info, and catch all the episodes of The Blonde and the Bald.